I want to talk to you about an experiment. Scientists took a group of shy, anxious mice, timid by nature. You would put them in a new environment and they would freeze. Then they transplanted gut bacteria from bold, fearless mice into them. Within weeks, the shy mice became bold, they explored, and they stopped freezing. The personalities changed. Not because of therapy or mindset work, because of bacteria. That's a study from McMaster University. And when I first read that, something stopped me. Because I spent years doing the inner work, changing my beliefs about success, about money, about who I am. And it worked. That stuff is real. Changing your mind changes your life. But this study made me realize there's a layer I completely missed, the biological layer. And for some of what I was still struggling with, the background anxiety, the foggy days, the energy that just wasn't there, the answer was not more mindset work. It was in my gut. So you've probably tried multiple things, therapy, meditation, better sleep, supplements. Maybe it helped. But if you still wake up foggy, still feel that low-grade anxiety with no clear reason, still have days where the drive just isn't there and you can't figure out why, who told you to look at your gut microbiome? Probably nobody. That's why we're here today. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how your gut runs your brain with the science behind it and why this might be the most overlooked lever for how you actually show up every day. Let's go. Point 1. The number that changes everything. Here's a number most people don't know. 95%. That's how much of your body's serotonin is made in your gut. Not your brain, your gut. Serotonin is the molecule behind your mood, your confidence, and your sense of well-being. That's the reason you feel good after a great conversation. The reason some days feel lighter than others. 95% of it in your gut. And it's not just serotonin. GABA, the neurotransmitter that lets you decompress, that shut off the mental noise, produced by gut bacteria. Dopamine, your drive, your momentum, the thing that gets you going, regulated by your microbiome. And there's a nerve called the vagus nerve. It connects your gut and your brain directly. 80% of the signals come from the gut to the brain and not the other way around. So your gut is not just processing food. It's sending a constant stream of information upwards, shaping your mental state in real time. So when your microbiome is off, when the balance breaks down, your brain doesn't get what it needs. Flat mood, low drive, background anxiety, brain fog. Not a mindset problem, a biology problem. But that's just the beginning. That's something even more striking. Point 2, the mice experiment plus the human angle. Back to those mice. The researchers didn't just observe that gut bacteria affect behavior. They took the actual microbiome from bold mice and transplanted it into shy ones. And the personality changed. That's crazy. So what you call your personality, your social confidence, your baseline anxiety, how easily you get overwhelmed, it's not fixed. Part of it is biological and part of it comes from what's living in your gut. I know that sounds extreme, but actually that's peer-reviewed science, and I'm going to put the links to the studies in the description of that video. So I genuinely invite you to explore them and check by yourself. And listen, here's where it gets real for everyday life. Think about the guy who procrastinates. We call that laziness. But what if it's depleted dopamine from gut dysbiosis? The guy who snaps at small things. Bad temper? Maybe elevated glutamate from mineral depletion. The guy who can't take criticism. What if that's low neurosteroids, not ego? What we label as personality flaws might just be biology we haven't addressed yet. That's what hit me. I used to think that my baseline anxiety was just me, like an introvert, overthinking often. I thought it was just how I was wired. But I'm realizing some of it was gut bacteria, actually. And for humans, the data goes further. Point 3, the study that flipped everything. For decades, the assumption was simple. Stress causes gut problems. Anxiety makes your digestion worse. The brain affects the gut. True, but only the half picture. In 2025, researchers published a study using bidirectional Mendelian randomization. That's the gold standard for proving causality, not just correlation. The conclusion was gut dysbiosis causally drives anxiety and depression, not just the other way around. The gut causes the anxiety. And here's the scale of the problem. Estimates suggest that 70 to 80% of Western adults have some level of dysbiosis. Our microbial diversity is 40% lower than some non-industrialized populations. We've damaged our gut with processed food, antibiotics, stress, and decades of eating crap. The brain fog you can explain, the procrastination that isn't laziness, the anxiety that doesn't map to anything real in your life. You're not weak, your gut is sending distress signals to your brain around the clock, and nobody connected those dots for you. And here's what it looks like mechanically. Point 5, the exact mechanisms. I'm looking at my notes on the same time because I don't know everything by heart, as you can imagine. So when the gut lining gets damaged, and in most of us it is, something called LPS molecules escape into the bloodstream. They cross the blood-brain barrier, they reach the amygdala, the fear center of your brain, and they activate it chronically. That's why some people are anxious for no reason. There's no tiger in the room, no real threat, but the alarm is going off anyway. GABA production drops. The mental brakes stop working. You can't decompress. Dopamine gets disrupted. The drive that should be there just isn't. And here's the one that hit me most personally. Candida, a yeast that overgrows when the microbiome is imbalanced, produce acetaldehydes as a byproduct. Acetaldehyde is the same molecule responsible for a hangover. That's crazy. If you have Candida overgrowth, you're walking around with a permanent low-grade hangover. Not from alcohol, from your own gut. So brain fog, low energy, difficulty thinking clearly. So again, it's not weakness, it's chemistry. And the good news is it's fixable. Point 5, what I'm doing about it. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not prescribing anything. I'm an entrepreneur and coach who went super deep on this subject, and I found something that changed how I think about energy, focus, and mental clarity. Here's something that surprised me. I eat clean, mostly organic, and I have for years, and I still got diagnosed with a gut imbalance. So imagine what's happening in someone who eats processed food regularly. So I'm currently working with a functional medicine doctor on it, and I'd recommend that path over conventional medicine. Because conventional doctors will give you something for the symptoms and send you home. They are not trained to look at root causes, and that's a problem. And that's why I don't really trust most conventional doctors, and I prefer functional medicine with that. Functional medicine is a different game entirely. So do your own research, talk to a professional, but here's what the research points to. The first thing is to stop gluten, not because of a trend, but because gluten triggers zonulin in everyone, and not just gluten intolerant people, everyone. Zonulin is what opens the gut lining and starts this whole cascade. That's Alessio Fasano's research from Harvard that proved that. So yes, gluten tastes good, and I'm French, so I love the baguette, the croissant and all that. But if that's feeding brain fog and anxiety, I clearly prefer stopping. Second, there's also fermented foods daily. The Stanford 2022 study showed high fermented foods diets cut inflammatory markers by 25%. So there's kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, pick what you can stick with. There's also bone broth, which is rich in glycine, collagen, and directly supports the gut lining. There's also L-glutamine, which is the primary fuel for gut lining cells. There's also zinc carnosine and many other things. And there's something I'm excited to test in the following weeks. It's called BPC 157. It's a peptide with impressive results in early research. Many people taking oral BPC 157 report healing their gut lining in weeks compared to months with the standard protocols. So it's not mainstream yet, but I'm definitely going to try that. I'm going to receive the package in the upcoming days, and I'll share my results in the next video. So that's the foundation. There are many other things I didn't mention. I'm documenting all of it. What works, what doesn't, what the science says. And that's what this channel is. It's a live experiment on how to live more intentionally, how to have peak health and maximize your freedom. And as I said, I'm planning to make a video with the before after completely healing my gut. It's going to be awesome. You don't want to miss it. So if you want to follow along, please subscribe. It helps me keep making these videos. I'm someone who loves to go deep on things that can improve my life, and I want to share that in this channel, so follow. 3 things to take away. 95% of your serotonin is created in your gut, not your brain. Scientists changed the personality of mice by changing their gut microbiome. And a 2025 gold standard study proved that gut dysbiosis causally drives anxiety and depression. If you've been dealing with brain fog, low energy, background anxiety, or motivation that won't show up, before you assume it's a mindset problem, before you add another supplement, you try another system, look at your gut microbiome first. It might be running more of your life than you think. So see you in the next one. Subscribe.